Thank you. I am going to have some slides in a second. Okay, am I going to have some slides or not? Yeah? I can just talk, it's fine, but if there are slides, it's even better since we prepared them. Okay, I'll keep going. I'll tell you just a little bit about what we do and my life, and then much more interestingly, I thought, I'm going to introduce to you some of the teams we work with and some of the companies we back, so you can see in practice that it's not just all talk and no slides. So, very quickly, a sort of description of some of the things we do. I will, brilliant, okay, there you go, thank you. The best things come to those who wait. So, this is sort of a bit of our universe. It's not total. So some of you, the very, very old people like me, might remember lastminute.com, but you'll be relieved that since that was 18, 19 years ago, our IPO, I'm not going to talk to you about lastminute.com. But it was a decent company, it went public and all that, and it was a roller coaster ride. And then since then, I did mydeco.com. Not as exciting, well, actually more exciting. It was my best idea, but it didn't work. It was 3D visualization and furniture and all sorts of incredible things. Now we see many multi-billion-dollar companies doing what we tried to do about 11 years ago. So there is something about being a little bit early. But then we spun out Made.com, which is why people still ask me to speak at stuff, because it wasn't just one trick. So Made.com, probably more of you here would use Made than lastminute.com, I suspect, because we sold lastminute.com to the wrong people. Am I allowed to say that? Non-disparagement clause must be finished by now. So Made.com, you may know, is a direct-from-factory furniture business that is pan-European and has a great management team, is doing super well. But more relevant, what we have now is Founders Forum, where we are actually currently running 8 events of our own this week. They range from Founders Pledge going on right now, where over 1,000 entrepreneurs have pledged to contribute over $1 billion to charitable causes. We also have Founders of the Future going on today, which is where we tour the country and promote entrepreneurialism across schools and universities. So we have national, local, regional, and national competitions for 14 to 19-year-olds and 19 to 25-year-olds. So that is the F Factor. Then we have SmartUp, a learning management tool for entrepreneurs to learn from each other, but more relevant from the finances point of view, for corporates to do corporate learning. We have Founders Keepers, which is a growing digital recruitment business. If any of you aren't happy with your jobs, this is the place to go. Or if you want to go on to digital boards and be the digital talent on boards, that's relevant. Accelerate Her is going on tomorrow. This is to promote gender diversity in technology. It's backed by Oracle, Microsoft, Intel, Henkel, and a host of other credible players. Then we have Founders Intelligence, which if you're a corporate wondering what to do, that is our strategy consultancy that helps large corporates cope with digital disruption. We have Founders Academy we've just launched, which is disrupting the MBA market. And we have GRIP, which is, I think, powering this event. I should know this. I was chairman, but I fired myself from chairman. That is artificial intelligence to work out who you should meet at events. So we launched that one too. And then Founders Factory and First Minute Capital, probably the most relevant to today. So Founders Factory is a multi-sector corporate-backed incubator and accelerator. It's backed from a range of brilliant corporates, and the difference to other accelerators and incubators is we hire amazing talent that actually helps you. So we have 70 full-time rock stars that we tell the corporates they wouldn't be able to hire. We have investors that can help entrepreneurs scale and grow. So if you look at the investors from L'Oreal to Aviva to Marks and Spencer's, and this is just in the UK. So this is 48 startups a year in the UK. It's going up. We'll be announcing another partner soon. And then we should be in 4 countries by the end of this year. We are already in Africa, and we will be announcing a couple more soon. This is, I won't bore you with this too much, but just to say, we think we give the entrepreneur's unfair competitive advantage. That's the whole point. And we have operational teams that help with all of these. So we do a startup studio. We incubate businesses ourselves, and you'll hear from some of those in a minute. And we accelerate, and you'll hear from some of our accelerator companies as well. The difference, most of you will already know, but obviously incubate, we start from scratch. Accelerate, we have companies come to us, and then we give them a small amount of cash. That's not the important part, £30,000, but it's £220,000 of in-kind services that is really important. We only accept between normally about 1% of startups that apply, so it's incredibly hard to get in. Our real first client above our corporate investors is the entrepreneur, and we're thrilled that the entrepreneurs give us an incredibly high net promoter score. So this is something about traction to date. You can see we've done actually, I think it's actually well over 90 investments. Companies have raised over 160 million. Actually, it's really nice, that number. I really do have to look back at it because every week that goes up because we've only been operating about 2.5 years. So it's now that the companies are sort of 2 years on, you start to see that number ratchet up very, very fast. So it's a very high caliber of companies. Also, we really do help them work with the corporate. So you can see over 150 pilots done with corporates and a large amount of paid ones coming through. You can see some of the companies, those of you that follow the internet very closely will know of these. Some of you might not yet because the whole point is they're very early. But lots of them have raised money from really interesting strategic people and have got some good traction. But I mean, 90% of our incubator startups raise over $500,000 within 6 months of completing the program. So once we incubate, we make it work. We're now launching other. I didn't know we'd actually announced that, but anyway. So we're launching fast, and we expect to keep scaling very rapidly right across the world. So global platform entrepreneurs, that's within Founders Factory. Then quickly, First Minute Capital. So First Minute Capital is our early stage seed fund that Spencer Crawley, who helps me run it, is going to talk to you a bit more about and introduce some of the companies. But it is one of Europe's most active seed funds. It is highly differentiated capital. The point is there is a lot of money around, but how do you become the capital that entrepreneurs want to choose? So one of the things we thought is that we would aim to be the most helpful seed fund, but help deliver on that promise by having amazing backers. So these are the people, these logos are some of the entrepreneurs and corporate CEOs and strategics who've backed us. So ranging from Tencent to Atomico to the CEOs of WPP and ProSieben to over 30 unicorn technology founders. So it's we're pretty privileged and excited with that base and with what that investor base can do to support entrepreneurship. Investments, we can talk a lot more about that. Spencer might talk a bit more about that, but we've done a lot, 37 in about 18 months. Thank you. That's quite enough from me. I'm now going to introduce the inestimable Spencer Crawley, who runs First Minute Capital, and will introduce some of our companies.
Thank you. Perfect. Why don't you go at the end? Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Spencer Crawley, Brent's co-founder at First Minute. I think I've co-founded 11 fewer businesses than Brent, but you have to start somewhere. But really delighted to be here. We have 4 truly exceptional founders on stage. I think what I might do is just to kick things off, rather than me butcher the description of what they're doing and the businesses that they're building, I will hand over to them. But just so you know who everyone is, we have Steph Madgett from Slick, we have Paul Christensen from Previse, Barney Wragg from Karakuri, and Albert Saniger from Nate. So I think what we'll do is, Steph, if you're feeling game, why don't you tell us a little bit about Slick, and then we'll go quickly and come back.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Steph. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Slick, and we are a salon management platform. So there are 3.5 million salons globally, and despite the fact that it's 2018, 70% of them still manage their entire business from a paper book. That's 70. Which is kind of crazy. There are kind of good reasons for that. The current kind of offer that's been available to hair and beauty salons to manage their bookings, their clients, their stock, etc., are typically kind of legacy, locally hosted, really complex systems that are expensive, so not that appealing. And then a few of the modern providers only sort of solve single pain points, so kind of Treatwell for online booking, for example, doesn't do the sort of full suite of management solutions that a salon needs as a business. So Slick does everything. We're a single platform that helps manage bookings, clients, stock, finances, and we make it super easy to use, very flexible, customizable, usable on any device, which is really important because hairdressers are typically not that tech savvy. They're quite nervous about software, but it's also kind of not in what we're doing because, let's be honest, this is not something massively new. A lot of people have tried this. It's kind of how we're doing it. So we work with L'Oreal through Founders Factory, so we have a partnership with them that helps us distribute to salons. So they have relationships with about a third of the salons in the UK and typically similar in other countries. And this is a relationship industry, so it helps us get a foot in the door. And then product-wise, we work really, really, really closely with customers to actually solve their problems and make it really salon and stylist friendly. So we have about 1,500 stylists on the platform now. We've taken over 1 million bookings, processed over £10 million worth of transactions, and we are currently scaling up, currently raising, and looking to go international following the next raise.
Great. Thank you, Steph. And we'll come back to some of those relationships with L'Oreal and how you work. But Paul, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Spencer. My name is Paul Christensen. I'm co-founder and chief exec of a company called Previse. We do something very, very simple but very profound. We get sellers paid instantly. What does that mean? There are 20 million SMEs in the world who sell $30 trillion a year of goods and services to the 5,000 largest companies in the world. And all of that business relies on this insane thing called payment terms, i.e. they deliver goods and services today, they get paid in 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. That's insane. We use AI to fix that and get all of those sellers paid literally the day they send their goods and services.
Thank you, Paul. Barney, onto the world of robotic arms.
Yeah, so I'm Barney. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Karakuri. We basically do robotics for food preparation and for the restaurant industry. We kind of do four very simple things that require a lot of technology and seem to be quite complicated to do. So we look at a restaurant, we look at what's happening with people's diets, we look at what people are doing with their exercise tracking, and we see a world where people really want to eat a very personalized diet and menu that's entirely specified to them. So whether it's calorific content, protein content, carbohydrate content, even macro contents inside there, we see that as a seriously emerging and important dietary trend and health trend. And we see a world where to be able to facilitate that, you have to have machines that can be very specific about what you order and what you're given, and you need to have an assurance of what goes through that. The second thing we do is we look at the world and we get very frustrated by the amount of waste. And we see an environment in the restaurant and fast casual food service space, and in fact any of the convenience food space, where there's an awful lot of overproduction to meet supply at the consumer end. And we think there's a lot we can do about that by using intelligent systems and managing the inventory all the way through from farm, if you like, right the way up to the point of consumption. The third thing we do is try and make a restaurant environment a nicer place and a more interesting place for people to work. So a lot of people think about robotics and go, oh, well, aren't you just substituting labor? There's a real problem facing the consumer food industry right now, which is there's just a shortage of labor. They just can't hire enough people to do the work. And the reason for that is it's not a particularly nice environment to be in. So we look at systems and robotics that can improve that, essentially take away the boring and mundane tasks and allow people to focus on the more interesting, people-oriented, creative tasks that they're more excited about doing. And lastly, because we're all in business, we do that in a way that we think can reinvigorate the restaurant industry. You don't have to be a genius and pick up a newspaper right now. You can see the challenges for all the high street restaurant chains. We think by being smarter about the way you use food, by the proposition you offer to people, the way you manage your human resources, we can improve the profitability in your restaurant food services.
Barney, thank you. Albert, over the backdrop of the truck.
Hi, everyone. My name is Albert, and I'm the CEO at Nate. We play at the intersection of automation, cognition, and consumer. So when you think of automation, most automation and AI companies are trying to make workflows more efficient at work, right? So we decided that people spend 2/3 of their time outside of work, perhaps 1/3 sleeping, but let's say a solid third of their time awake outside of work. And there's a lot of things that you do while you're outside of work that are relatively repetitive and that could be automated. So we've built a digital assistant that knows how to transact online on behalf of people. Let's say, for example, that you want to buy a new pair of Gucci trainers, and you know that you want to buy them. Then why do you have to go to that website and then go through all the process of actually implementing your own decision? Why can't you just go and tell someone to buy it? Or let's say you want to buy a flight, or cancel a subscription, or update an address. There's a lot of things that you do online that could be automated. So our first assistant is called Nate and can transact on your behalf. It's not out yet, but it'll be announced soon.
Excellent. Very exciting to hear that. We'll double click on each of those and how you're each changing the world in your respective ways. Just to bring the human element in, we as seed investors spend a lot of time trying to work out why people do what they're doing. In terms of your own backgrounds and how you came to your problems, Paul, maybe I pick on you first. How did you come to Previse?
Yeah, and maybe I'll say why first. I was thinking, and this wasn't pre-rehearsed, but I was thinking the silly answer you often hear from climbers: why did you climb Everest? And the answer being because it's there. But for me, I do mean that, and because our problem is it is so big and so just insane. I sit with CFOs of FTSE 100, Fortune 500 companies, and you've got companies like, I don't know, Shell or Unilever or these huge companies worth hundreds of billions of dollars who think it's a good thing to pay their SMEs really late, despite the fact that the Shell or the Unilever can borrow money at 3% and the SME has to borrow at 23 or 33% if they can access money at all. And yet the entire world works like this. Huge corporates borrowing money from their tiny little suppliers who are struggling to access any form of financing whatsoever. So to me, it's one of those things that I just look at, and it is such a dumb situation. And with some good tech, it's really easy to fix. So what got me to there, I did my first startup fintech in the late 90s, a company called Volbroker. I've been involved in fintech since then, done a few startups, spent a lot of time at the banks. And this is just the best opportunity I've seen to really, really make a huge difference just by making things better.
I think making things better is probably a commonality, and I thank you, Paul. That I thought was very authentic. I mean, Nate, for you, you're based in New York. Mm-hmm. Before, I think there was an Amazon period in your life.
Yeah.
How did you get to the point of starting Nate?
I'm going to get philosophical here, if you don't
Go
mind. So in the last few years, as a consumer, I've realized that my world of decision making has been narrowed. So there's a lot of poorly trained machine learning algorithms that are effectively deciding on my behalf. So for example, my social feeds are being reordered, or I'm being served, quote, relevant ads. And so as a result, there's what I call informational determinism and self-fulfilled prophecies. And because I wear black often, I'm never shown an amazing ceremonial red Indian hat. I'm only shown black t-shirts. And so as a result, I see a lot of people just constantly being exposed to the things that algorithms think that they want.
Reinforcing.
And then once they decide that they want it, they have to go and execute it themselves. So it's almost like we are working for the machines. The machines are deciding what we want, and then we have to go out there and actually implement it. So I started thinking, how can we bring the power back to the people? And it starts with a very simple step, which is kill the implementation layer. Make it where people don't have to actually implement their decisions. Think of an EA for everyone. And once you have that time, you'll be happy spending more time deciding, comparing, and going through all of that. So I spent a lot of time thinking about automation and cognition and how to deliver that execution layer. And luckily, the stars aligned. I met Brent at Founders Factory, who I believe, in my opinion, is the best incubator in the world. We've been in business. We incorporated less than a year ago, and the business has been de-risked at a pace that I did not even expect. And this is not my first venture. I sold my previous company in 2016, and it took me 4 years to get to where we are today at Nate. So,
what space was that previous company in?
So previous company was in direct-to-consumer brand. Yeah.
Gotcha. And I'm going to borrow your phrase that you used at the beginning, Albert, to ask Barney his motivation, because I think that in the intersection of AI, cognition, and consumer, I'm guessing, Barney, that's been a triangle that you've been thinking about a lot in your life as well.
Yeah, although I wouldn't say that's why we started this. I mean, yeah, I was spending a lot of time thinking about the impact of low-cost, high-performance distributed computing, spending a lot of time thinking about what was happening in AI and machine learning and the impact that computing platform was happening, and interested in the sort of mechatronics stuff. So that was all going on, but really the genesis to this was I'd rather foolishly got involved in a couple of restaurants. And throughout my career, I'm a kind of builder come fixer. It took me a while to work that out. But actually, I kind of like a problem, and I like the intellectual challenge of fixing that problem and trying to find a way that you can fix that problem and make it better for several people, of which my view is if you could do that, it will be financially beneficial for you. You can share in the benefit. So this really came about from playing with some technologies in completely unrelated spaces and then playing with some businesses in a very related space and going, oh shit, the restaurant business really sucks. It's really, really hard for somebody to make money out there right now. It's really hard to put a good proposition together as a consumer. And so, for a consumer, and even if you try really hard, you might, for some random reason, not be able to get through that barrier. And I didn't think there was any shortage of people wanting food. And I didn't think there was any shortage of people wanting food prepared for them that was good to get access to go for. So it felt like when we started this, there was this sort of problem without a clear and accurate definition. And that was exciting to me. That's the most interesting part of a problem analysis. So that was really the genesis into this. And I think, if we're supposed to be here to give kudos to Founders Factory and Brent and the team, I would think the most interesting thing that they did, organically, of course, the most interesting thing that they did was kind of let me run with something. They'd been looking at an idea for a very consumer-facing restaurant. It's sort of I talk about it as being a Star Wars concept, sort of like a C-3PO character wandering around, serving things to people. I was like, that's all very nice, but I don't think the laws of gravity are going to allow that yet. So it was more about them saying, okay, we kind of get this. We're going to give you some flexibility. We're going to give you some money. Go away and see if you can come up with this idea. See if you can refine this. See if there's something there. And it was, very much like very true R&D. Almost funded in a way that you might have seen university research funded. It was kind of just go and run with this. Let's see if we can take this anywhere. Let's see if we can turn it into a business. So what we've ended up doing is almost completely orthogonal from where the Founders Factory original thesis was, but is much more aligned to where I thought there was a problem identification. So, I mean, that is what I find exciting about this. And you've got your, I'm a geek, and so I get excited by the technology and what we can do there and what's going to happen and where it goes. But also, I have to pay my bills, so I get excited about a commercial opportunity of building a business. And at this stage in my career, I get excited about building a long-term business that has stability and a real value over a longer period of time. I've been involved in startups since '93. Some have done exceptionally well, some haven't. And for me, this was part of a journey of, okay, I'm at a point in my career where I can afford to spend the time to really create something that has a long-term vision, a long-term reward plan, very strategically relevant to its customer base, my direct customers, and a bit to the planet. And that something would be fun and we could really enjoy doing.
I think if we had more time, we might double click on Barney's a physics master's, a stint at ARM, some time with Andrew Lloyd Webber and many other things, but that perhaps is for another time. Just for everyone in the room, Barney, just a visual of what your DK1 robot looks like.
Yeah, essentially the first robot that we have replaces the need for a canteen service in a restaurant. So it takes prepared ingredients. They can be cooked.
Charades? Can you not just show us?
We do. I could try, but I don't quite have enough arms, unfortunately. So yeah, basically, if you imagine a restaurant like a Chipotle or a Toast or a Leon or something like that, where you need to assemble a meal into a box or a container, at the moment, we take the prepared ingredients. They can be, as I said, hot, cold, ambient, whatever you want, and we can assemble those in there. And we can do that in a way that's very unique. So you can specify before you get to the restaurant exactly what you want, down to the calorific content or protein content. And we can do it very quickly, we can do it very efficiently, and we can do it in a way that means it's guaranteed to be the same each time a portion goes out. So, yeah, it solves the problem that most restaurants have a peak service of between 90 minutes and 2 hours, and pretty much what you get in those 90 minutes and 2 hours depends on where you are in the queue and how busy that restaurant is. So that's essentially the first problem that we address.
Coming to restaurants near you. Steph, for you, so Paul actually modestly admitted he was also senior at Goldman Sachs during his career as well. I know you come from a financial services background. How did that work? How did you find this opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, so I used to work in public markets as an investor and gravitated a lot towards technology, to kind of marketplaces, aggregators, disrupting sort of a lot of SME markets, so the likes of Just Eat, Rightmove, AutoTrader, Zoopla, and just saw the kind of real need for what they were doing and the attractiveness of the business models in terms of ability to scale, profitability, and it just kind of felt like a win-win situation. So it was, a win for the businesses that were using the technology. It was a win for consumers who were benefiting from that, and it was a win for investors. So I kind of thought, well, there must be other industries that could benefit from similar technology, and then I guess it's just been more of a kind of personal pain point, which I'm sure you've all possibly experienced when you've needed to book a haircut or colour or a massage, and you try and call the salon because you can't book online, and you have to call between 9 and 6, and you call and they're busy, and you eventually maybe manage to book your appointment, and then you turn up and they're scrolling through the book and trying to read scribbles. Oh, it turns out they've double booked your appointment, and then you ask for what you had last time, but they don't have a record of it, or if they do, it's got coffee stains all over it, and it's all just kind of general carnage, really. And I think the Nate idea is awesome, but Nate could not book an appointment in most salons for most people because it would have to pick up the phone and speak to someone, which maybe it can do, and we'll be able to do one day. But yeah, we need something else to happen before a lot of similar technology like this can come to this industry. So, AI, it's really hard to actually do any AI because all of the data about, consumers, what styles they're having, what their hair type is, what products they're using, it's all in a paper book. So step one is actually just digitizing that, and that is quite hard because these are small independent businesses that have been doing things this way for the past 15 years, and don't fix it if it ain't broke kind of thing. It's like, no guys, it's really broke. Look at all the other industries. How do you book your flights? How do you book a restaurant? And they're slowly coming around to that idea, but I think I find it just really compelling, the size of the opportunity, because this is a massive market. There's about $200 billion of spend globally in the hair and beauty industry, and so much of that is analog. So the opportunity here is not just a salon management platform. It's once you've got people using that, extracting the data to marry the right products with the right consumers based on their hair type, their skin type, what they've had before. I mean, that's quite far from happening because we've just got to get the salons digital first. So that's the exciting opportunity. And as a sort of former investor, I see a lot of white space and a lot of potential for someone who can get this right. And it has to be right for consumers, but it has to work for salons because otherwise they just won't use it. So that's what gets me excited.
And market-wise, you're all playing in huge spaces, whether changing people's purchasing habits or making restaurants more efficient and wonderful things, or getting SMEs paid on time. Where for you, just to paint a picture of when your businesses hit the huge scale that you hope they will in 5, 7, 10 years' time, what do each of your businesses look like?
Shall I go first? So for me, I think we don't really look at what we think the business will be look like. I think we focus on what will we have done to the environment around us. Mm-hmm. So I think the big thing we look at is people will be eating better quality food, particularly better quality fast casual food, be much more matched onto their dietary requirements. They'll be able to really analyze that. We kind of see a world where there'll be AIs and agents that are linked to people's fitness trackers, linked to what they're doing on a daily basis, that enable them to walk into somewhere like Cold Drops, find out what restaurants are available and design what they want to eat, or have it designed for them even, or a series of recommendations, and that they can have that specifically delivered to them. So we see that. And I think the other big thing we would really like to see when we get to macro scale is a real reduction in food wastage.
Say that again.
A real reduction in food wastage. Yeah. We live in a world where we're talking about, do we make enough food to be able to feed 10 billion people on the planet? Well, the answer is we pretty much do right now, but we throw about a half of it away every year. And that's, really serious from just a consumption point of view, but from an environmental point of view through what we do. And a lot of that is about a lack of knowledge about how we use that very precious resource. So we see that as a very, I think if, everybody that works at Karakuri, we all sit there and we go, well, we all might have been hippies in another life, and this is the thing we would have liked to have changed.
Paul, how are you changing the environment around you?
Yeah, no, I would give a very similar answer. By the way, the time frame's a bit shorter than that. I would say more like 5 years or less. It's not about what we look like, it's about what the world looks like. Mm-hmm. And that's a world where commerce is just efficient and fair. And technology and data have the ability to do that. You think about everything that's happened in B2C in terms of leveling the playing field as a consumer now. I mean, some markets excluded that aren't digitized yet, but in many markets, as a consumer, thanks to Brent, I can look online and book a plane ticket super cheaply, massive competition, because as a consumer I have that. In business, in B2B, that just doesn't exist. All that innovation and transformation just hasn't happened. So for us, and certainly in this payment space, and it's going to be 5 years away, is just a world where business is efficient and fair for everyone.
So this is a really interesting. To be honest, I don't have the answers. It's something that I have been debating myself and with the team, some of which are here, by the way, for some time. We know that automation is happening, AI is happening, and it's a matter of time between before it reaches consumer lives in a deeper way. And so for us, it's about what role is Nate going to play in that 5 years from now. And so when we think about things like how to build our models to leverage data network effects as an accumulating advantage, are we doing it to create barriers of entry and to prevent competition? But at the same time, we're doing it because we know that there's several schools of thought, and there are other schools of thought that we really disagree with fundamentally. So it's about creating a strategy to make sure that we have a seat at the table when that future comes. I believe that automation, we're just starting to see the impact, the transformational impact that automation is going to have in our lives. And I hope that the global GDP goes up tenfold thanks to automation. So the question is, what is that world going to look like then, in terms of distribution of resources, in terms of what people do in their free time? Do we value human cognition more than machine cognition? So sorry to not give you a more straight answer, but we're very much cooking this answer, and we are making sure that the decisions we make today, we will be proud of them in 5 years from now.
And what's your instinct, Albert, on the most important way that people's behavior will change as a result of your technology?
So there's, to me, my gut feeling tells me that it's the realization of what makes us human. And so, you can talk about consciousness, which is hard to, define or test for a machine. For me, it has to do with the kinds of decisions that we make. I believe it is fun to make decisions. Decisions make us human. And so, to me, it's about understanding that fundamental pillar of humanity, which is we are on Earth to compare, to decide, and then we can build tools to make our lives easier. But what you don't want is to build a tool that ultimately decides on your behalf, because then you will have lost your humanity. So it's almost like we have a chicken that is laying eggs, and it's great. You can eat the eggs. Don't kill the chicken.
Slight change of tack, but I will, if anyone has any questions for any of the founders, I'll come back to you in 1 second. We can get a mic to you. Thinking about working with major players, Barney has Ocado as an investor. That's Ocado's first investment into a tech startup to date. That was announced a few weeks ago. Paul has Bessemer as one of his investors, the blue chip US fund, and an advisory board to be envious of. And Steph is working with L'Oreal very closely. Maybe, Steph, to start with you, L'Oreal is an enormous company. How have they helped you?
In multiple ways, I guess. So obviously they're a marketing machine, they are a distribution force, and we are a very small company with a great product that they don't have, but their salons want. So we work with their sales team who are out pounding the streets every day, going into 9 salons a day, and they promote Slick to their customers, which is very helpful. But we also work with them on the product side. So they have a massive education team, they have loads of salon experts, and the way to crack this market is to actually build a product that works for these guys. They're creatives, they are individual, there's a reason that they haven't all migrated to technology yet, so we need to really understand them. So access to those kind of experts and that industry experience has really helped us get to the core of the problems and the workflow. And we also integrate with them in a number of kind of product areas. So online booking, they have a kind of salon locator that they basically pump advertising for all their products and then say, find your nearest salon, and then we are connected so that people can actually book online. Once they've seen something they're inspired by, they can find their nearest salon and book via Slick, which is great for the salons because it's kind of free advertising courtesy of L'Oreal. And we're starting to work with them a lot more on data. So I guess the vision for the future is to kind of connect the products and services industry. So they're quite disconnected at the moment. Hair and beauty products are sold, direct to consumer and, through wholesalers. And the data used there is based on browsing habits and what you bought last time. But the real useful data like my hair type, my skin type, all the sort of treatments that I've had before, what my stylist thinks about my hair and what products would benefit me are, as I said, all trapped in a book. So digitizing all of that really gives us the opportunity to match products in a really, really personalized way with customers. And, who knows your hair better than your hairdresser that you've been seeing for, 10, 20 years. And so making it feel like your stylist is recommending products, especially for you, which they will have an input into, but actually marrying that data that we have with all of the specifics that L'Oreal and the other guys have about their products, what particular hair type they're for, skin type. That's so much more powerful in terms of that personalization than your browsing history, what you've shopped for before. So we're really kind of working together to personalize that salon and post-salon experience and make the kind of product recommendations and purchases feel like they're coming from someone who really knows you and your beauty regime really, really well, but is all powered by data that we're slowly aggregating and getting online. So it's exciting.
And Barney, for you, the Ocado relationship is a newer one than Steph's as L'Oreal. Why did you choose to work with Ocado?
Well, it might be worth just spending a quick second just to explain a bit about Ocado, because in this country in particular, a lot of people, we think about Ocado as being a retailer. So we think about Ocado.com, we think about them as an online grocery provider, which they are, but their core business really has grown to be a technology company. So they took that vertically integrated retail solution, everything from the app, the vans, the warehousing, the purchasing, and they provide that out as a service provision across the world. So there's 13 countries now around the world where one of the top 3 grocers in each of those countries uses the Ocado platform. And so they're very, very interconnected in the food and grocery space, and they're very, very interested in the future of food production, food distribution, food delivery, and consequently, and really all driven by what consumers want from a consumption model. So we saw a big fit with their look at where they were looking in the world in retail with what we were doing. They were very supportive of the scale of our ambition. So they were very they came at it from a very West Coast VC point of view. They came at it from okay, this is big, it's audacious, it's going to be expensive, it's going to be difficult. You need equity, you need cash, you need capital to be able to do that, and we appreciate that, we see that. And we felt that they were, they did that in a way that was significantly hands-off. They came at us and said, you're an independent business, you need to be an independent business. We really like what you're doing, we see a lot of synergy, we think there's a lot of ways we can work together, but we appreciate that you're in a sector that we aren't in. We have our hands full doing all the things that we want to do for all of our customers and the roadmap that we have, but we think we're at a size and a scale where we have money to be able to invest and do things in interesting adjunct spaces, and we'd like to play there and we'd like to be helpful because we see that synergies there. So it was, we had offers from other investors, and it was a very, we were in a very fortunate position to be able to look at and decide where we thought the best strategic fit would be. And spent a long time talking to all of the management team at Ocado, who were incredibly supportive and continue to be incredibly supportive. So yeah, for us, it was their first deal. It was obviously our seed round. They led our seed round, so that's a fairly ballsy move for somebody who's not been in the VC space to come in and lead a very big, very risky but very high return seed round at that stage. And it was a real learning process to be able to do that together.
I think as a reflection of how seriously Ocado is taking Karakuri as a business at Barney's drinks to celebrate his round closing at his home. He had the entirety of the Ocado management team, from Tim Steiner, the CEO, to Paul Clark, the CTO, to the CFO, all at Barney's fabulous home.
I think they just wanted to come and play with the robot.
The robot was fun, I'll admit that. Paul, for you have an advisory board that includes former CEOs and chairs of FTSE 100. You have some of the best fintech investors in the world. How have they helped you?
Fantastically. I remember our business is B2B, so we've got to break into this space where we're selling to the largest companies in the world. And the biggest challenge in our business, bar none, is inertia. And overcoming inertia is incredibly hard. So whether it's our shareholders, Founders Factory, very happy to give a plug in. Founders Factory is uniquely set up. That's what they're set up to do, is to be the interface between startups and large corporates. Every large corporate wants to be innovative. Every large corporate wants to do cool new things. Every large corporate wants to engage with startups. That's the talk. But the reality, particularly from a startup's perspective, of actually making that work and actually getting a large corporation to take some risk and do something different is really, really hard. So, yeah, that group is incredibly valuable to us, whether it's the shareholders, the partners, the advisory directors. I was telling a story just before we came on. One of our advisory directors, probably the most respected person in retail in the UK, and he can put a call in or an email in to the chairman CEO of the top 10 retailers in the UK, and he does regularly.
Are you allowed to share who that is?
Sorry?
Are you allowed to share who that is?
I couldn't possibly share who that is, particularly as one of their close family members is in the audience, so I couldn't possibly say who it is. But he regularly, he will put his reputation on the line. He will call a CEO of a FTSE 100 company and say, this is transformational, you must look at it, and if you don't, you will have me to answer for. And, as a startup, that's incredibly, incredibly valuable, because getting through that is tough.
Thank you. I've got one more question for any of the founders. Has anyone got a burning question that they would like to ask any of our founders? Is there a mic nearby, or if not, just maybe stand and be vocal? Thank you very much.
I guess
what's your name?
Hi, I'm Lucas.
Lucas, hi Lucas.
I work with Nate. A question mainly aimed at Barney, but also the other founders as well. When it comes to automation, a lot of jobs will be automated in the future, and are being automated as we speak. So, do you feel like you have any responsibility towards the different classes of workers that might be automated, and how could you mitigate the consequences of that automation so that it doesn't create a backlash?
So it's a good question, and I have two very specific answers to that. One is that to do what we're doing, you can't afford to do it with human labor. You cannot do the amount of specificity and accuracy in a meal that you can sell to a consumer at a price point that is attractive and viable to them. It's just not feasible to do it. So we're creating something with automation that couldn't have commercially existed in a non-automated way, is the first thing. The second thing I would say is this is really interesting in that I don't really believe that we're going to take labor out of the marketplace. I think one of our biggest customers right now, when we first started to talk to them, we were like, well, maybe we should analyze your labor profile and see if there's things we could automate and take out. They went, stop. We don't want that. We're not interested in that. Our biggest problem is recruitment. So for every employee they have in their group, this is a major restaurant chain in the UK right now, they have that job turns over 4 times in a year, on average, across their group. So they have the recruitment cost, the training cost, and the quality issues, a very, very rapid turnaround on that. Their comment to us was, if you can make the life better for one of our employees and they stay longer, we don't care if we give them a shorter shift to work, we don't care if they spend their time interfacing with customers, doing things that they like more. In fact, we really want to encourage that, because our problem right now as a business is not how do we cut down on our staff, but how do we just keep the staff that we have and make them happy and give them a rewarding employment opportunity. And that's where I think you'll see automation go. I don't think you'll ever see automation completely remove people out of the loop. It's very much about an augmentation process. If you go into a restaurant, you still want human contact. If you don't want human contact, you can buy a packet of crisps out of a vending machine. You can do whatever. But if you want something more than that, there's opportunity to do it. And I think it's very much going to be about an augmentation and a balance of roles that helps people run these types of new businesses in a way that can be profitable and can be beneficial to their customers.
I think that's a nice segue into a very final question, because I think we're out of time in one moment. One sentence on your biggest challenge this year, whether it's hiring, retention, countering corporate inertia, and how someone in the room might be able to help you.
Well, there's two recurring themes throughout the life of this business, and I believe they will continue to
keep it clipped
to happen. Number one is we're hiring.
Yeah.
Number two is we're raising. And even after 10 more hires and 10 more million, we'll still be hiring and we'll still be raising. So yeah, that's it.
Barney?
I mean, we have this hiring. Anybody has a CV, a good programmer, engineer, let me know. We have raised, and there's a real shortage of talent, and we're aggressively looking for people. So yeah, that's our number one priority.
Champions at corporates. So if you run or know a large corporate that wants to do something that makes a lot of sense, I'd love to hear from you.
Two things. One, if you know any salons or barbers or beauty shops that don't currently take online bookings and need a system, send them to getslick.com. And secondly, we are raising, so anyone who has a big vision for a massive industry that has a lot of potential but is quite early stage, come and see me. Thank you.
Super. Thank you very much. Thank you to our founders.
Come and see me.